Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. When three friends go in search of the Loveland Frogman, they find out he's more than just a local legend. That's right, folks, we are hopping in to the latest found footage phenomenon that is Frogman. Luke, found footage. It has really been showing us the way the last couple of years here. I mean, seriously, we talk about it all the time. But like ever since the Outwaters, I think we've had to put a little bit more respect on this genre of horror because I've seen some good stuff. I mean, the Hell House movies I recently explored this year, even Skinamarink to a degree is that kind of analog horror found footage style. So whenever I see found footage, whenever a screener or an interesting idea or an article pops across Bloody Disgusting, I no longer just look away and think, not for me. Who cares? It piques my interest, and I don't know. I think maybe the best kind of found footage movies, in my opinion, are when they involve cryptids, and that's what we have today with Frogman. Now, tell me a little bit about your thoughts going into this flick, Luke, because yeah, this was I know this was an interesting one.
To be honest, I went in pretty cold for this one. I didn't watch the trailer. I think Bloody Disgusting had posted an article, and they just had that just one picture there. So that was really my only inkling of diving into this film. I did check out the poster artwork prior to watching it, and I rather enjoyed that. I thought it was really well done. But any other visual things I really didn't see. So I didn't really know what to expect going into this one. Again, what a tangled web we weave with found footage here. It's probably one of my biggest takeaways of starting the channel is, my how I am resonating with some found footage properties lately when I used to just kind of discard them almost. And I gotta say, cryptids in general, I think kind of lend themselves more often than not into those like B movies, C movies, where the quality is not necessarily there, especially when you kind of approach it from that cinematic nature, just because the budget's not there. But as soon as this one popped up and we're dealing with a cryptid that's found footage, I think that's really such a happy marriage because you can come at it from very interesting aspects, and also the limitation of the budget is null and void for the most part because maybe with some special effects, things like that, you can really just have that natural presence, that natural feel to it because it is found footage. So, going into this one, I gotta say, I was pretty pleasantly surprised.
I agree. I was sold just on the idea of Frogman. I think it's no secret on this show. Between Luke and I'm a much easier sell with a title and a wild concept. I know Luke can be a bit more he has to kind of dip his toes in before he
Cautious.
hops in the water. He's a little cautious. But again, this is another one that's just weird title, weird concept, and yeah, I think it paid off for us between this and Hundreds of Beavers. It's like, yeah, this is definitely another one of those ones where it's like, damn, this is fun. This is enjoyable. And again, just like with Hundreds of Beavers, there's a surprising level of quality when it comes to Frogman. And yeah, I think that's kind of my favorite part of this film is that, you go into a concept like this, and I don't want to get into spoilers, obviously. I think that this is something that people are going to want to know. Does the title live up to what they're kind of portraying? Will you see the title character? All that I will say is that going into these movies, you're always worried about it, like Luke said, the budgetary limitations when it comes to cryptid films. It makes it tough. It makes it hard to get there. Frogman, it gets there, and it gets there really well. And I'm so happy that it delivered in the way that it did.
Yeah, and you talk about, sometimes these films tend to underdeliver in terms of, what we're expecting. But I got to say, this one easily lived up to the expectations. Anthony Cousins clearly and his team clearly had a vision here in terms of what they wanted to pay off and really deliver to an audience. And I got to say, for me, it scratched every itch that I needed it to be honest. I think from a storytelling perspective, you really do find this interesting story, especially if you grew up making films with your friends, and as you go into adulthood, I think there is a very clear trajectory that I think a lot of people can resonate with, especially when you're in this found footage element where it almost feels like you're part of this group. And I think, the camaraderie that we do see between our three characters here is really well done. Sometimes you can find those annoying characters, or sometimes you can find sometimes with the acting ability that it's almost someone playing to a camera, but everything feels so natural and real and organic that you really do get lost in this ride. And just the kind of tension that they build, the elements they build, the small world that they do build in terms of the Loveland Frogman and going there and kind of getting these interviews and the characters that we do see. It really does allow you to just get lost in this element of Frogman. And, you're always wanting that payoff, but you're also able to live in the moment that they do present here.
I agree. And, I think that the thing that surprised me the most about this movie, too, is because, again, go into something like this, you're not expecting the highest caliber of not just acting, but written character, I would say, because it's like we all know why we're here. We're here because of the Frogman. It's the selling point of all of this. But I do got to say the biggest piece that surprised me when I walked away from Frogman was just how much I actually cared about our characters. And I got to say that's another huge accomplishment, especially when you're dealing with something like found footage, because I feel like even though it is, in the hands of, a character, in the hands of these people, and it's supposed to almost be more realistic, I feel like the human brain, at least for me, there's somewhat of a disconnect there, because it's like you're almost just living in the perspective of the camera. And so with this film, though, I was so on board with our kind of our trio here. I thought that they had really great chemistry, and I think that they really make you give a shit about them. And you mentioned being a filmmaker, a kid who's making backyard films and stuff like that. The angle that they take with this and just kind of the story they set up with it, I mean, it hits all those beats perfectly. And they do really play into that kind of bond and that friendship that you get just from making home movies. And, I think that that was some of my favorite stuff, which is honestly key because it keeps you moving through the film before any of the actual cryptid stuff starts up. And that is so tough to do because so many people always complain about films, even like ones that we like The Outwaters, where it's like it does take a while to get there and some parts are a little slow. This one, I was just having fun. I was just enjoying the conversations. I was enjoying them doing the research in the town. Like they were really, really compelling characters.
Yeah, and it all felt so authentic in terms of, the contemporary elements to it. I mean, we open up just with a YouTube personality talking
Mhm.
about like laying the groundwork of what we're going to see later on and throwing out these weird hypotheses of, the Frogman and these elements that go into Frogman. And it really kind of sets that tone of to what you're going to be seeing, and it just kind of again feels authentic to us. And then as we get into our characters, like you said, sometimes it doesn't necessarily feel 100% real, but going along for that ride and what they do present, it was just a lot of fun. And you just feel like you're part of that group. And one of the things that this film has been in production for way longer than the element I'm going to bring up here, but remember those grimace kind of shake
Oh,
things that they had
absolutely.
going, and
Yeah.
it really kind of got me in that element of how well crafted a lot of people were coming up with those ideas, and to kind of see this through an hour and a half and really kind of um present, especially as we get toward the ending of the film. I think there's a lot of imagery here that is going to stick with you in terms of how well done it actually is and just how haunting it can be, because they really do. Frogman is our title character, but they also use that element as more of a garnish to tell the story of these three friends. And then once, as we heighten that element of Frogman as we get toward the end, it's really so prevalent there, and it does leave a long lasting impression for you.
Yeah, and honestly, the fact that you're bringing up grimace shake videos right now, to describe that element of it. I did not see coming, but I get it. It is that genuine creativity and just the fun and the camaraderie that comes with that. I mean, we totally would have hopped on that trend had we not been shooting our short film at the time. Like, it was deadpan in the middle of that. I wanted to do one so bad because we were constantly showing each other those on set, and I think that that is captured in this film genuinely. And beyond that, I don't want to talk too much about the cryptid. Obviously, it's really well done, and I think that some of the effects that you get later on in the film, just as far as from a practical standpoint, are really good. And of course, the found footage element really lends itself to that well. And I think that it's because you kind of have those elements of just like, when we talk about these things and how you only see shades of them, and the footage of these cryptids that is supposedly real is always, shaky, grainy camera footage. It's like it just gets you so in the mood and in the zone when you're watching this. And I think that the beauty of this film and why it resonates so well beyond the characters and everything is that, again, it knows what it is, it knows the story it's telling, and it wears that on its sleeve. It stomps its way into your realm, like into your house, and just puts itself on and says, "You're getting a movie called Frogman, and it's going to freak you out at times." Because I will say, there are some elements to this that, although cheesy at times, there are a couple right around that third act that are genuinely like, when you really sit back and think about it, it's like, that is disgusting, that is creepy, and I'm all for it. I love it. So that's really where I sit with this. I mean, clearly we've said nothing but positive things. I don't really have a negative to pull back. I don't think that this movie drags in any places. It's a must see. Honestly, I really love Frogman.
Yeah, and as I was trying to mull over everything and be like, what is the negative that I have coming out of this? And not really going into with too many expectations. I got to say, they checked every box for me from a
Hmm.
character perspective, from just building the town and using that found footage element to their advantage, and just the general aesthetic, that VHS feel to it. Everything really sets the tone here. And like you said, the cryptid, it really does pay off in this film. If you're sold on that idea of Frogman, this film is made for you. It's not going to disappoint. If you're on the fence with it, or if it just doesn't hit with you, then you're not going to get anything different than what it's presenting. So it does pay off 100%. It's something that, if you're 100% backing the idea of Frogman, that found footage style, um, you're going to get what you came for. So, for me, like I said, there's not really any negatives here to pick apart. It was something that Anthony Cousins and his team, they knew what kind of film they wanted to make, and they went out and they achieved it. So, yes, for me, definite must see.
I do want to say that on Wednesday, pop back on the channel because we do get to sit down with the director, Anthony Cousins. We talk for about an hour about this film and everything that's going into it. And I mean, really just that conversation added so much more to the project for me. Just because it confirmed a lot of things, it made me think differently about a lot of things. So I encourage you, if you are excited and want to see Frogman, definitely do yourself a favor and check that out. But you guys can catch this thing on VOD on the 8th. So that is this upcoming Friday. And yeah, I would say you see this review, rent the movie, come back and watch the interview, because like I think you'll get so much more out of it. And yeah, I gotta say, like, I really found myself surprised. I thought at the end of the day this would be a movie that, even if it wasn't great, I think I could still have had fun with it. But the fact that it came out at the quality that it was very surprising. And I was very, very pleased. I had a smile on my face afterwards. And I am so excited to own this movie and just throw it on because, again, I think it just hits all the right notes. And it feels like just a nice little package of found footage horror. And it is definitely up there for me as one of my favorite recent found footage horror films.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that I'm easily going to purchase on Blu-ray when it becomes available. We took a look at some of the merchandise they have available. Once you see the film, you're going to easily want a Frogman shirt. There's a
Of
couple
course.
pretty nifty ones out there. So I guarantee, if you go into this because it intrigues you, you're going to walk out of this a huge Frogman fan. We both are. Definitely come back here, check out that interview because there's a lot of interesting tidbits. And I think, as just a film fan, you appreciate the motivation, the idea, and just the overall achievement.
I know people are going to think that we're just shilling for this because we not only plugged the interview, but we plugged their merchandise. Guys, I don't know what to tell you. I really like this movie and I think you should go see it.
It's made by horror fans for
Yes,
horror fans, so
exactly.
it's gonna
Yeah,
resonate with you.
absolutely. I mean, we saw this and stop motion in the same week, so it was a good week for us. Like,
Yes,
definitely a lot of
2
positivity there.
must-owns.
So
So
I was happy with it. So definitely check out Frogman. Let us know what you thought. And yeah, I'm excited for people to see this. I'm really, really looking forward to reading these comments and talking about it with you guys because yeah, this is definitely a must see. So check it out on the 8th, VOD. Buy it if you're a found footage fan, buy it if you're a cryptid fan, buy it if you're a horror fan, because you won't be disappointed. But alrighty, guys, it's gonna wrap us up here for our review of Frogman. Yeah, definitely check out some of our other videos. Like we said, interview coming out Wednesday, and as well as we just talked about the Strangers trailer a little bit. I was talking about True Detective, and of course, like we mentioned, we saw another film about a week ago or so called Stop Motion. Definitely another one you should probably go check out. So if you haven't seen any of those videos, check them out. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, comment down below, and yeah, that's going to wrap us up here. So until next time, I am Dylan Newell.
and I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.
Do the horror shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna slash your ass. 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 Splattercast, gonna slash your ass.